My name Alexander and I'm lawyer. Today I would like to talk about the situation in Kazakhstan. Problems, difficulties and what kind of developments there may be in general. Well, first of all, I want to tell you that I have some experience in such situations, related to conflicts, hybrid wars, with protest situations, escalating into a certain violation of human rights. Why I'm shooting this video is because my idea and my concept of ensuring human rights is based on helping people to ensure security in various ways, starting from the methods of national protection by appealing illegal actions administratively, judicially, as well as the use of international instruments for the restoration of violated human rights. Kazakhstan is a territory that, at this stage of human community and development, is most likely really exposed to a certain impact either from within or from outside, and there is a high probability that all this can lead to a situation that will be quite difficult for citizens inhabiting this territory, and with loss of property, loss of income, loss of health, maybe even life. Well, for starters, I'd like to focus on global issues, because these are the minor nuances that relate to the rise in gas prices, increasing the cost of living, utilities or food prices. This is of course all important. This is important for segments of the population who are most likely below the poverty line in the regions of the country, and the smallest increase in the cost of energy already has a serious impact on a person. But this is just the trigger, which in fact is only a trigger for the beginning of unrest in the country, and the unrest in Kazakhstan is actually really interesting in quotes for various socio-political groups. The situation on the rocking of the political situation in Kazakhstan is naturally interesting to both Russia and China. It is interesting to certain forces inside the country, because the same crisis and stagnation in the economy must somehow be resolved. Globally, we need to understand what is happening on planet Earth right now. War actions. We live in wartime, whether you understand it or not, but this is actually the case, and most likely, the aggravation of the situation is very fast, and its development only indicates that this whole situation was planned, organized and directed in a certain direction. In fact, this situation reminds me very much of the events in Ukraine in the 13th year, which, as you know, led to a violent change of power, to the killing of people, to the loss of territory, and to a change in the political situation in general in the world. Happened in Ukraine. Ukraine was separated from Russia, and it was beneficial to someone. The government has changed in Ukraine. At the same time, other forces used this moment for their own purposes. All this led to the fact that the population lost a lot. Many people lost their homes, lost their well-established life positions. They had to emigrate, move to other regions. Many went abroad in this situation. Remembering these events, very often scrolling through what happened there, I am surprised that people, even already with the understanding that the territories will be seized, that administrative buildings are being seized, that there is a certain interest in the territory on the one hand to seize, on the other hand to hand over, they somehow negligently treated it and stayed in place, did not think about what to move, and then in puffs, when roadblocks were already set up, when the movement of citizens was really difficult, they escaped from this territory with great difficulty. They were detained by some Cossacks or separatists or other groups, armed people. Just today I was approached by a woman who was captured with her daughter in the 14th year, and they spent 7 years in captivity and slavery on the territory of the Russian Federation. Well, now she is trying to apply to various authorities in order to somehow at least punish the perpetrators, establish this fact in order to get at least some compensation, because she has lost not only property, but also health, time. Psychologically she is already a completely different person. Why I'm talking about this is because you are citizens of Kazakhstan who now live in this country should understand the seriousness of the situation, and you should understand the level of complexity and why this is happening. The main thing is to realize the basis. And the basis lies in the fact that Kazakhstan is most likely elected by the country that it will be divided, and it will be divided between China and Russia. Such is the fate and such are the plans of the puppeteers, who of course solve their economic problems. You can see, there are certain videos, there are certain views, there are books on this subject, why this is happening, why the United States of America is at war with China, why they need it at all, and what kind of wars actually happen, and then maybe you will understand what the problem is and will not treat it like that, so thoughtlessly. I now advise every citizen of Kazakhstan to think about how to ensure the safety of himself personally, his family, his business, and believe me, it is unrealistic to file to the courts, to the prosecutor's office, to the police, to the administration when there is anarchy, when administrative buildings are seized, when a military contingent is introduced. This has already been stated by the President of Kazakhstan. He is already calling on foreign armed forces to come to Kazakhstan in order to restore order and stop terrorism, the so-called, that is, he openly stated that it was the work of terrorists. Therefore, in fact, an anti-terrorist operation has already been introduced in Kazakhstan. Friends, don't just miss the time. If you have the opportunity to leave for a while, ensuring the safety of your property, please take measures so that it doesn't happen later. There is no need for you to urgently leave your home. You should already think about it now. The possibility of ensuring security through immigration is a much more light option than sitting and waiting for the complication of all these processes when they will close the borders when you can't free to fly out of the country. There are no such problems yet. Take action. You can go to Russia, you can go to Ukraine if you don't accept Russia's policy there in some way, because most likely, and I think it will be confirmed in the future, that Russia will certainly not leave a trace in these movements. The territories that are now controlled in Kazakhstan, then Baikonur, just as Russia leased the Crimea, it also rents this city. There are strategic facilities there naturally. Russia will fight for these objects. The appearance of green men is quite possible and realistic in the near future. So friends, take action, think, observe the situation, but don't just sit idly by. Now, if you have your own work, business, you are doing these things with your own, distract yourself a little, observe the situation, study the conjuncture, study the problem of why a development scenario in Kazakhstan similar to the Ukrainian one is possible right now. Only this situation can be even more dangerous, and because Russia is already rebuilt as an aggressor country at the moment thanks to the situation in Ukraine and the previous war with Georgia and other conflicts. That is, the purposeful creation of such an aggressor from Russia as it was 80 years ago, 90 years ago with Germany is repeated, and if you remember, then it was the same Germany that seized one country, then another under various pretexts to protect the local population, the German. Now Russia is following the same path, no one is coming up with anything, they simply use the same patterns that worked earlier, that were previously used, already in a person's life, to solve their tasks, and of course Kazakhstan in this case and to a greater extent its population will be used blindly. So if you don't want to become cannon fodder, if you don't want to physically and mentally suffer from this situation, are you thinking about at least leaving? At least getting a passport, at least getting a visa? I know that in Kazakhstan there are problems even with the registration of foreign passports of a citizen of Kazakhstan for traveling abroad. I had clients who could not get a passport for several months, even going to different levels of government, therefore, get a residence permit. If you have some roots in Ukraine or Russia or the Republic of Belarus, in other countries, use these documents and this kinship in order to obtain temporary residence permits, permanent residence permits, maybe a second passport, migrate under other programs. This will help you move quickly in the future, even if martial law is imposed throughout the country. At the moment, as far as I know, a state of emergency has already been introduced in some cities and there is very little time left before martial law is imposed on the territory of the country. Here are my brief recommendations. Subscribe to my channel. And then you will know how to survive in this world today and defend your human rights to freedom of movement, freedom of behavior and life, using the law and international legal instruments.